Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Nyberg, and I want to thank you for watching what I hope to be the first in a series of readings intended to bring a little bit of interest towards my new and upcoming collection of poems. The Goats Have Taken Over the Barracks, which is being published by Finishing Line Press in March of 2021. And basically, for each of these readings, I'm going to read a cross-section of work, trying to bring in one work from my original collection, Easy to Lose, which was published by Finishing Line Press in 2008, then a poem in progress from material we're collecting towards a new collection, and then finally a poem out of the Goats Have Taken Over the Barracks. And so for this first one, I want to open by reading a poem that I wrote while I was a student in Art Smith's class, a fantastic poet. If you've never read him, I highly recommend. The poem is called Ometacoita elongata, which is the Latin name for those little fish that cling to the eyes of sharks. And it was a concept that always kind of fascinated me, and that's where this poem came from. Ometacoita elongata. Cruising for the kills of the killers with these pinkish-white copepods clinging to shark corneas. Greenland sharks scavenge blind. Their milky eyes. Hitchhikers cause collateral damage to their corneas with their latch claws. Obliterate already imperfect vision. Augment sense of smell through deprivation. Reflect the light like lures, bring smaller predators close to clamping jaws like love. At night, O Elongata glows softly, transmitting its light directly into the eye. Warm colors, too close to focus on. Enough to know that something is there in the dark with me. Enough to know the way is as cloudy as those corneas. This second piece is out of my current collection, and it's called Anthill at the Mailbox Post. There comes a point for us all when more people we know have died than still live. You know that in a church, somewhere a crowd plays bingo, while in another a congregation honors the God they keep betraying in their hearts. No one is ever more than a few feet from a spider, and the combined weight of ants on this planet is greater than that of human beings. How much soil do they move in one day? Are we capable of the same? You tighten your pea coat as you walk towards your car from work. It's finally a cold you feel in your fingers as you avoid the branches but crunch the leaves. The strap of your satchel chafes, and you're tired from staying up to monitor the third day of the second week of your son's cough. You tell yourself you'd rather stay in bed than rise, that given choice you'd tighten the shutters and refold curtains against the light, well aware you're lying to yourself, that you won't sleep enough anyway. There's something you can't turn off even as you're sewing yourself shut like a poem in an envelope, while you keep your bedside stocked with melatonin, notepad and pen, a stripped-down app on your phone for things that must come out typed. You hope maybe one day you'll see it and understand that everyone is a church one must kneel inside to pray, and that you so dearly envied the ants. How they exit and enter their little hills, how under the ground they meet in burrows and talk with sense and touch their antennae, how they move without regret, without sorrow for what they left behind, because their whole life built it. And this is the poem from the collection The Goats Have Taken Over the Barracks. It's entitled Grandfather. When the professor tore the readout from the dot matrix printer, it was old-fashioned because he was old-fashioned. We knew we'd done it. We had calculated the number of lemons that mankind would probably consume before the end of existence under current parameters. We could finally go home. Last week, it was the number of snail shells lying empty in English garden beds. Before that, the number of raindrops in a 3-hour storm. We knew the world so well. We tabulated the number of table legs ever wrought by carpenters, and the number of the same sawed and stained by furniture factories. We even knew the number of tears it would take to fill the Pacific Ocean, depending on whether the criers were infants, girls under 10, professional football players, or widows. This is exactly how much you cried when your husband died, we could tell them. This is how many tears fell onto your husband's hand. The number of milliseconds the warmth of those tears forestalled the cooling of his skin. Isn't this grand, we said. Doesn't this help you with your grief, Mrs. Najberg? But she said she didn't want to know. Just shook her head and said she didn't want to know. There were still pills in a plastic cup on the corner of his dinner tray next to the applesauce. The napkin, soiled, crumpled in a wet little ball, seemed like it wanted to soak in all the weight in the world, to draw in her grief and leave her clean. Would you like to know how many of his cells are still alive? But it's no use. She won't listen. Even as the nurses enter in, and the orderlies and the candy stripers and the doctors and the morticians, all of them absorbed in what must be done, what must be done. Almost no one hears her whisper that she can't, she can't, she can't. All right, that's it for this time. I'll be trying to record the next batch here pretty soon. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed, and feel free to leave a comment.